Welcome to Daily Harmony, a journey through A Course in Miracles. Today, we're exploring Lesson 86,
Okay.
which is a review of two
Yeah.
pretty intense ideas from earlier lessons.
Right.
Only God's plan for salvation will work.
Mm-hmm.
And get this, holding on to grievances is like attacking that plan.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever thought of it that way? It's a lot to unpack.
It is.
So let's dive in.
It is a lot to unpack. And, it's interesting how the Course uses the term salvation in a really unique way.
Right.
It's not about escaping punishment or going to heaven, but about a fundamental shift in our perception.
So less about fire and brimstone, more about inner transformation.
Exactly. A Course in Miracles is all about undoing the ego's thought system,
Right.
which is built on separation and fear.
Mm.
God's plan for salvation, as the Course puts it, is about remembering our true nature as unified with God and with each other.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the inherent love and peace that already exists within us.
Okay, that makes sense. But then how does holding on to grievances attack this whole plan?
Well, remember, the ego thrives on separation.
Mm-hmm.
It loves to point fingers, make judgments, and hold on to grudges.
Yeah.
Every grievance we hold reinforces this idea that we're separate individuals,
Right.
victims of circumstance, rather than expressions of a unified whole.
So every time we get stuck in blame or resentment, we're feeding the ego
Yeah.
and pushing further away from that inner peace the Course talks about.
Precisely. Lesson 72, which Lesson 86 reviews,
Mm-hmm.
even says holding grievances binds you to the past and makes you certain that you cannot escape. Pretty intense, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're choosing to stay stuck in a cycle of pain and suffering.
It definitely gives you pause, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But isn't it natural to feel resentful sometimes?
Sure.
If someone does something hurtful, isn't it healthy to acknowledge that pain and even hold them accountable?
That's where the Course's perspective on forgiveness gets really interesting.
Okay.
And trust me, it's not what you might think.
Okay.
ACM doesn't say to pretend you weren't hurt or to let someone off the hook.
So it's not about condoning bad behavior.
Not at all. The Course dives deep into the metaphysics here.
Okay.
It says that on a deeper level, we're all part of the same mind, the same spirit.
Okay.
And because of that, hurting someone else is essentially hurting a part of ourselves.
Wow, that's deep. So how does forgiveness fit into all of this?
Lesson 71, the other one we're reviewing today,
Yeah.
says, forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred.
Oh, wow.
It's a radical idea because it's asking us to question the very reality of our grievances.
Okay, so help me understand this.
Sure.
Is ACM saying that the hurt we feel isn't real?
Well,
That's a tough pill to swallow.
It's not saying the pain isn't real,
Okay.
but it is saying that the story we've built around that pain, the blame and judgment,
Mm-hmm.
is a fabrication of the ego.
Okay.
It's the ego's attempt to keep us separate, to reinforce the illusion of victimhood.
So the hurt might be real, but the story we tell ourselves about who's to blame and why is what keeps us trapped.
Exactly. And forgiveness in the ACM sense is about letting go of that story.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that holding on to anger and resentment doesn't actually change the past or solve anything.
Right.
It just keeps us stuck in a cycle of suffering.
That's a really different way of looking at forgiveness. So it's not about the other person at all, really.
Yeah.
It's about changing our own internal experience.
You got it. ACM even says that forgiveness is the only thing that heals.
Oh,
And think about it. Have you ever noticed how holding on to a grudge actually makes you feel worse?
oh, for sure.
It weighs you down,
Already down.
consumes your thoughts, and keeps you from experiencing joy?
That's so true. But how do we actually do this? How do we go from feeling deeply hurt and resentful to actually forgiving someone?
Right.
The Course seems to be asking for a complete 180 in our thinking.
It is a big shift, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
But ACM provides some really helpful exercises to guide us along the way.
Okay, tell me more about these exercises. I
Huh?
think our listeners would find this really helpful.
Sure, let's start with one from Lesson 86 itself. So this one is all about identifying those hidden grievances we might be carrying around without even realizing it.
Okay.
The lesson suggests taking 5 minutes to sit quietly and reflect on any grievances we might be holding.
Just sit and stew in those negative feelings.
Uh.
Doesn't sound very peaceful.
Not quite. It's not about dwelling on the pain, but about bringing those grievances into conscious awareness.
Okay.
The lesson prompts us to ask ourselves, how are these grievances serving me?
Right.
Are they aligned with God's plan for salvation?
So it's about recognizing how those grievances might be holding us back from experiencing the peace and wholeness that ACIM talks about.
Exactly. Often we cling to grievances because they give us a sense of justification, a
Ugh.
feeling of being right.
Yeah.
But as the Course points out, that rightness comes at a high cost. It keeps us trapped in separation and blocks us from experiencing true forgiveness and inner peace.
I'm starting to see how this all ties back to the idea that only God's plan for salvation will work.
Yeah.
If we're constantly focused on grievances and who's to blame, we're essentially choosing the ego's plan over God's plan.
That's a great insight. And remember, God's plan isn't some external set of rules or punishments.
Right.
It's about aligning with a different way of seeing the world,
Okay.
a way that emphasizes unity, love, and forgiveness.
Okay, so that's one exercise. Any others that you find particularly helpful?
Another one that's quite powerful involves actually writing down a specific grievance we're holding.
Okay.
The lesson then guides us to consciously choose to forgive the person involved.
So we literally write out, I forgive so-and-so for.
Exactly. And we state our intention to release this grievance and invite healing into our hearts.
Right.
It might feel a bit awkward or forced at first,
Sure.
especially if the hurt is still fresh. But there's something about putting it into writing, about making that conscious declaration
Right.
that can be incredibly powerful.
So it's like we're taking that negative energy and transforming it into something positive.
Precisely. And remember, forgiveness is a process, not a one-time event. Those old thoughts and feelings might resurface.
Right.
But the more we practice this conscious act of choosing forgiveness, the easier it becomes to let go and move forward.
That makes sense. So we've talked about grievances and forgiveness,
Right.
but I'm still a bit fuzzy on what exactly God's plan for salvation looks like in our everyday lives.
That's a great question, and it's something that the Course addresses throughout its teachings.
Okay.
In essence, God's plan is about waking up from the dream of separation and remembering our true nature as love.
Okay.
It's about shifting our perception from fear to love, from judgment to acceptance, from scarcity to abundance.
So it's not about following a set of rules or achieving some external goal, but about an internal transformation.
Exactly. It's about aligning our thoughts, words, and actions with love.
Okay.
It's about choosing kindness over criticism, compassion over judgment, and forgiveness over resentment.
Okay, so how do we know if we're on the right track?
Right.
How do we know if we're aligning with God's plan?
The Course offers a simple yet profound guideline. If you are happy, you are doing God's will.
Oh, wow.
It suggests that our feelings are a direct reflection of our thoughts. When we're choosing thoughts that are aligned with love and forgiveness, we experience peace, joy, and a sense of inner harmony.
So our emotions are like a compass guiding us toward or away from God's plan.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
When we're feeling stressed, anxious, or resentful, it's a sign that we've strayed from the path of love and forgiveness.
Right.
It's a gentle nudge to pause and choose again and choose again.
So it's not about beating ourselves up when we inevitably slip up,
Yeah.
but about gently course correcting and getting back on track.
Exactly. The Course reminds us that we're all learning, all growing, all making mistakes along the way.
Right.
And it emphasizes the importance of self-compassion.
It's like we're all on this journey together, stumbling and learning and supporting each other along the way.
That's a beautiful image. And it's important to remember that we have help along the way. ACIM talks about the Holy Spirit, our inner guide, who's always available to help us see things differently, to choose love, and to experience the peace that surpasses all understanding.
That's reassuring, especially when the world feels so chaotic and divided.
Yeah.
It's good to know that we have access to that kind of support.
Absolutely. And that support is always there, whether we're aware of it or not.
Right.
The more we practice forgiveness, the more we quiet the ego's voice, the more we open ourselves to that inner guidance and experience the transformative power of God's plan.
So if we're truly embracing God's plan for salvation, if we're actively practicing forgiveness and letting go of grievances, what does that actually look like in our daily lives? What kind of shift can we expect to see?
That's a question that Lesson 86 directly addresses with its concluding reflection question. It asks, what would my life look like if I fully embraced God's plan for salvation and let go of all grievances? It's a powerful invitation to envision a completely different reality, one where we're not weighed down by the past or consumed by the need to be right.
So it's not just about feeling a bit more peaceful or having fewer arguments, but a fundamental shift in how we experience the world.
Exactly. The Course suggests it's a life filled with joy, peace, and a profound sense of connection to something greater than ourselves.
Okay.
Our happiness becomes less dependent on external circumstances and flows from an inner wellspring of love and understanding.
That sounds pretty amazing, but also a bit like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Can we really live that way in the midst of all the challenges and conflicts of everyday life?
It's a good question, and the Course acknowledges that it's not always easy.
Right.
We're human after all, and we're going to experience a full range of emotions, including anger, sadness, and frustration.
Yeah.
But the key is not to let those emotions control us, not to get stuck in the stories and grievances that the ego loves to create.
So it's about recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond to those challenging situations.
Precisely. Every moment presents an opportunity to choose love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, and peace over conflict. It's about aligning our will with God's plan, even when it feels difficult or counterintuitive.
That makes sense. It's not about becoming some kind of emotionless robot, but about cultivating a different kind of strength, a strength that comes from choosing love even in the face of adversity.
Beautifully put. It's about recognizing that true power lies not in dominating or controlling others,
Right.
but in mastering our own minds and choosing to see the world through the lens of forgiveness.
So it's less about changing the world out there and more about transforming our inner world, which then ripples outward.
Exactly. As we practice forgiveness and let go of grievances, we start to see the world differently.
Okay.
We become more compassionate, more understanding, more patient,
Yeah.
and that shift in our perception inevitably impacts our relationships and how we interact with the world.
It's like we're creating a ripple effect of peace and love, starting with ourselves and expanding outward to touch the lives of everyone we encounter.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And as we cultivate that inner peace, we become beacons of light in a world that often feels dark and divided.
That's a powerful image and a reminder that even small acts of forgiveness can have a profound impact.
Absolutely. Every time we choose to let go of a grudge, every time we extend compassion instead of judgment,
Right.
we're contributing to the healing of ourselves and the world around us.
So it's not just about our personal happiness, but about creating a more loving and peaceful world for everyone.
Precisely. And that, I believe, is the essence of God's plan for salvation, to awaken to the love that connects us all and to create a world where peace, joy, and understanding prevail.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into ACIM Lesson 86. We hope these insights inspire you to explore these ideas further and to experience the transformative power of forgiveness in your own life. Please like, share, and subscribe for more journeys into A Course in Miracles. See you tomorrow.